If you love ancient history, then this is the channel for you. History Hit TV. It's like Netflix, but dedicated just to ad-free history documentaries, including a huge library of ancient history content from the 9th Legion to Boudica to the First Britain. Simply check out the details in the description below and make sure you use code Odyssey on sign up.
This Oxfordshire field hides something so special, it's been tantalising people for decades. And here's a hint, these incredible crop marks. They're a clue that there's something big and almost certainly Roman right underneath my feet. But what is it? And why is it here?
Hello.
Oh, wait. I can almost believe this is a Roman wall.
Oh, wow.
Hang on a sec.
No way!
I'd love it if just for once this turned out to be a posh, powerful des res rather than some manky old Roman farmhouse, the kind of place that drew people here for centuries. Maybe all roads do lead here to Dropshort. We've got just 3 days to find out, if the gods are with us. Beneath the huge cooling towers of Didcot Power Station are these fields, known as Dropshort. Back in the 1960s, a young PhD student decided to excavate this site. Farmers had been regularly ploughing up Roman remains, and our keen archaeologist wanted to know why. He soon found the stone walls of what was clearly some kind of Roman building, but he never found enough evidence to prove exactly what it was. Now, we're here to finish the job he started, doing something no other team can do, intensely digging for 3 solid days with some of the best archaeologists and specialist technicians in the business. If anyone can do it, Time Team can. No wonder Jim is steaming ahead with the Geophysics. This lot over here have been pontificating over the bonnet for the last 20 minutes and I don't think they've got anywhere. Neil, you're the site director. Can't you get them moving? Look, it's as plain as a pikestaff what we've got.
It's a great photo, isn't it? And you can see this very clear, straight ditch in this sort of trapezoidal shape. Now, that says to me Roman, but there's one thing missing. There's no building. And yet we know there's a building because they dug up here in the 60s. The first question is where is it?
These are the results of the excavations in the 1960s. Bit of a key that it's Roman. Mosaic. A wonderfully accurate plan, but like Neil says, unfortunately we don't know where in this field this building is.
We've got to identify this mosaic, haven't we?
Oftentimes when we've found a mosaic, it's actually been disappointing. It's all been ploughed to blazes over years and years and years. And actually, the more important information is actually in the structure itself.
Fair enough, I want to hear the whole story. Nevertheless, rob a trench, burnt debris, stone foundations, mosaic. I know which I'd go for out of those 4. Find me that mosaic, Phil. So first, we've got to find out where exactly that student put his trenches and where he found the mosaic. Back in the 1960s, archaeologists often weren't as rigorous as today. He left no records of where he dug. But things have moved on, and we've got technology on our side. Geophysics. Jimmy, from our Geophys team, has been rolling out his radar kit all morning. Running this dig for Time Team is Neil Holbrook, an expert in Roman archaeology.
I mean, what slightly worries me is that the crop marks of the ditches are incredibly visible, but the actual villa we can't see at all, just see this big splodge. I'm a little worried by that because, you know, if you can't find this villa, we don't know where to dig.
The problem is, I suppose, it could just be that it's been spread out. You know, we've got just a demolition spread there. I mean, if that's the case, then, well, maybe that's all we'll see. But at least if we can centre you in on that spread, You can poke a hole in it and maybe find some wall lines.
Yeah, but I want a bit more than that, Jimmy. You know what I mean? You know, I could dig a hole in there now. I need you to target me in.
But radar takes time to analyse. So we're also doing a magnetometry survey for quick results. Our site lies in the south of Oxfordshire, at the heart of the Thames Valley. Its rich soil has made it ideal farmland for centuries. Just to the north of our site are water meadows reaching across to the River Thames about a mile away. And to the south, those majestic cooling towers. As far as Roman villas go, this isn't exactly Italy. Few have ever been found around here, and none of the posh grand Roman villas we're familiar with are anywhere near to drop short. So a grand villa with mosaic floors would be a real find. John Gator, our Geophys boss, is ready to serve up the first magnetometry results.
Where's your plan?
Well, we've been waiting for this, John.
Right, those are your rectangular ditches. Yeah. And what I've done initially is a block in there.
Why?
Well, it's roughly in the middle.
Okay,
No,
what I mean.
No, that was my reasoning.
Okay.
So we've surveyed the strip in there. There you can see the ditches.
Yeah.
So that corresponds with those ditches there.
Right. And then in the middle...
In the middle, we've got this clear edge. There you can see between the black and the white. Now that could be the edge of the building.
And that's not what I was expecting to see. I was thinking we were going to see very clearly defined wall lines, probably make out rooms of a range. What I'd say, John, is I don't think you must assume that the building is necessarily in the middle of the enclosure.
I mean, I was surprised that you went along there.
We test it, but you know what? I'm not convinced that's the villa.
No, I'd be surprised if it is. Well, we've got to do it.
So much for new technology.
So where is this trench going to go, John?
Well, roughly here, where you've got
roughly,
these
don't
blocks.
matter about roughly, precisely where.
Well, precisely here.
Well, then precisely mark it in, please, so that we can dig it.
Or you can do it where you've got your shallow ground over
it doesn't
there,
matter.
you know. Or you can do it over there, away from the middle.
No. Where is it going to go?
Here.
Well,
5 by 2.
From here?
Yeah, do you want me to spray it?
Please.
On this alignment?
Yeah. It's good enough for you.
Oh, be careful. You don't want to, you know.
So the black is here.
Okay.
And the white,
is there.
Let's get Ian in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The first trench is going in across the long black area that John's identified on his survey. Apart from that feature, the Geophys is just picking up a jumble of debris in the topsoil, with no mortared walls or anything else obviously man-made.
Okay, Ian.
In goes Trench 1 on a wing and a prayer.
Now then,
What have you got there then?
Mr. Romanist.
Well, they look like brick tesserae, don't
Thank
they?
you. That's what I thought they looked like, brick tesserae.
So they're bits from a mosaic pavement,
Okay.
but they're quite big and it's more likely to be from the border rather than from the centre pavement itself.
But they are from a mosaic, you reckon?
Turning up a fragment of border mosaic straight away is a very promising start. It's just the kind of thing that our student dug up in the 1960s. In search of clues to the site, we've retrieved his finds from the museum where they've been for 50 years. Time Team finds expert Danny has roped in Romanist Louise Revell to help identify them.
What people were wearing 2,000 years ago.
That's gorgeous.
But look at this.
Oh, yummy.
Can you tell us something about this?
Can I pick this up?
Yeah, of
that's
course you
okay.
can.
That's a very nice piece of painted wall plaster, which would have gone onto the walls. You've got the reddish colour, but you also have these white and this pale greenish line on it, which would be the sides of borders. So it's not all one colour. Instead, you break it up, and you might have figures or something in the middle of it.
Nice to be able to see colours, how they would have seen it.
It is. It's really, I mean, that white is so vibrant, it's gorgeous.
Back at Neil's first trench, there's tension in the air. Have we zeroed in straight away on the remains of a Roman building?
Coming lighter.
It is. I think
That's the bottom of the ploughing.
Ah,
Aye.
hello.
Oh, wait.
Wow,
Ooh.
that's
That
more
is the
like
bottom
it.
of the ploughing.
So what is that black?
Well, it's a hell of a lot of burning.
Yeah.
It's burning, isn't it? Is it actually just where they've been burning, stubble burning from the modern fields, rather than actually being to do with the Romans?
No, I don't think it's that. You look in this section here. Look at the intensity of the heat. Look, it's actually burning this clay. Look how this clay has turned red. That ain't stubble burning.
So this is really old then? Yeah,
Well-
this is ancient burning.
This is when the villa burnt down.
Don't jump into conclusions. But you can see why it shows so clearly on the geophys, can't you? This very discreet line of burning.
We've got to strip this out. Could you just whip this last?
Something has clearly burned down here, and this must account for the black line on the geophys. But could John be right? Did our Roman building burn down? The results from Jimmy's radar survey, which should give a really clear 3D picture of any remains under the surface, have started to come through. We're hoping it will give better results than the initial magnetometry did.
Radar, what you found?
I'm afraid the radar's even worse. Jimmy's not getting a clear picture at all. There's no depth. Now, that may be the clay, or it could be that it's been ploughed away. So what we've done is just extend the magnetic survey.
That is it, is it?
That's it there.
It's not great, is it? It doesn't leap out at you.
So I think what we need to do is perhaps look at some of these responses.
I feel like a bit like a needle in a haystack time, isn't it?
Yeah, the irony is that when we came here, we were saying, oh, look, we've got these fantastic aerial photos, we've got all these finds coming up. Actually, this could be a bit too easy. Here we are, afternoon, day one, and we've got nothing. The Geophys team are drawing a big fat blank. It's a real problem for Neil in his search for the villa, giving him no leads to place his next trench. So he's going with John's best guess for Trench 2. As the topsoil's removed, Neil's about to find out whether their best guess is enough.
Oh! That's that level.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yeah.
It even sounds nice.
I mean, that's mortar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know, I could almost believe this is a Roman wall. Because look, there's stones and they're set in mortar.
Let's get those 3 stones showing first. 3 is a wall. But that is looking good.
It looks very good.
That's nice.
Oh. So I think this is our level.
Against all odds, Neil's in luck.
I think we need to go and extend the trench in this direction. Then we can get some people in here and clean back. But looking a lot like that is the face of a wall with one face there and the other face there, and then some material, potentially plaster floor or something, going through there. Fantastic.
It's good news at last. But are these fragments of wall the same walls that our 1960s archaeologist found? If they are, then we should be very close to finding our big prize, the mosaic. It's been a funny old day because, quite honestly, for the first 3/4 of it, everything was really very difficult. And then suddenly, whoosh, we're bang on the money. And tomorrow we'll excavate more of this and hopefully find out more about the dating of what it is that we've got and what it was used for. But for now, it's down tools and off to the pub. Archaeology will have to wait till the morning. It's the beginning of our second day at Drop Short, and it's full speed ahead. we suddenly seem to be digging everywhere.
2 areas where the mosaic was
Stewart
found.
Ainsworth, our landscape archaeologist, is joining the team on this dig. He's been scrutinising the site and matching it to the fine detail of the local maps. Already, he's come up with some fresh insights for Neil.
You've done your research. What's the story?
I daren't say this, but I think Stewart's cracked it.
I don't say that very often, does he?
Prove it
Listen
to
to
me.
this.
Prove it to me.
Well, what I've done is taken the original magnetometry that John did here, rescaled the original excavations which were floating in space and we didn't know where they were. And if you start to play about with that, some interesting things come up.
Yeah. Those coincide exactly with the 1960s excavations. So that means the mosaic was originally here.
Thanks to Stewart's efforts, we're getting a much better understanding of where exactly the 60s archaeologists were working. So with a bit of luck, Neil should be able to pinpoint where the mosaic was found. He's put Phil in charge of this job. I've just got to get my head around all the frantic activity this morning. This is our main trench here where we think that the mosaic would be, and they've now stuck in another trench over here. I'm not sure why they've done that, but they've also put in another trench way over in this direction behind this tent here. I've no idea why they've done that at all. Nice to see the old boys taking the weight off their feet. Well, what are you doing putting in a trench right over here? It's practically the other side of Oxfordshire from where the rest of our villa is.
What we want to do, Tony, is get away now from where the 1960s excavators dug, because we actually want to find intact Roman deposits to give us dating evidence for the complex. So this ditch over here will date the whole trapezoidal enclosure, and then can you see there's also this like inner enclosure, perhaps potentially around the building, and that's where we put another trench over here.
Oh, is this the new one that's almost adjacent to Phil's trench?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is get dating out of there and out of there.
But we've hardly started excavating the villa itself at all. Why didn't we wait a while before we went off onto the periphery and concentrate on the villa?
Well, Phil's carefully excavating away in there. You know, there's important and there's delicate and complicated archaeology. We've got to give Phil time. So what we thought is if we dig here and we dig here, this gives Phil time to investigate further there. And then tomorrow, what we can try and do is come back and perhaps put some other trenches in here, because the one thing we still don't fully understand is what is the plan of this villa and how big is it?
Tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. Tomorrow is our last day. That means you're only giving us one day to excavate the villa.
Yeah, we are, but we've only got the resources available to us, and we can't rush that archaeology. Let that archaeology take its own course. Phil's confident.
Oh, I'm glad that someone is. So Neil's keeping Phil on the hunt for the mosaic in Trench 2, but he's also opened 2 new trenches, one over the inner perimeter ditch and one on the outer. Ditches are useful for archaeologists. Finds on the bottom must have been chucked in first, so give you the earliest date of occupancy. Stuff at the top was dumped last, so give the most recent date.
So we should see that yellowy, greeny clay shortly.
And it's not long before the inner trench starts to pay off.
It starts very different.
Ah,
isn't it, there?
hang on, oh. That's a bit of glass.
Yeah.
Ooh. I want to be very careful because I want to get it out in one piece.
It's quite dippled, isn't it?
It is. It's almost molten, isn't it?
Yeah. I can see,
Danny?
I can see through it when you did that, the light. It was lovely.
Can you come and have a look at this?
Ooh.
What do you think that is?
It's excitement, all right.
Wow. How cool is that? Well, that looks like a bit of glass, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We got that far.
Yeah, we knew it was glass.
this is possibly a bit of glass that has come from a window in the villa.
But isn't it amazing that if this is molten,
Yep.
it suggests perhaps a fire,
Yeah.
perhaps that part of the villa has been burnt at some stage, because there's an awful lot of charcoal, wasn't there, in the first trench? But this little bit does suggest, well, wouldn't it be fantastic if there's a story to do with a bit of burning?
Yeah.
Maybe the villa burnt down?
Yeah. Wow, look at that. It's like we're looking through a Roman window.
To expert eyes, Roman glass is unmistakable. And this piece suggests that whatever building we have here was quite classy. But even if it is high-end, what would mark out our building as being specifically a villa? We keep talking about the possibility of there being a villa here, but it does rather beg the question, what is a villa?
A villa is one of those horrendous terms to actually define. One of the problems is we use it archaeologically just to mean any kind of countryside residence that has, I don't know, the odd bit of mosaic, the odd bit of wall painting that looks something a bit more impressive than your bog standard peasant farm. A villa is where you display your wealth. It's where you show off how wealthy you are. So if we've got nice things, that suggests it's the sort of upper end of the villa rather than the lower end of the villa scale.
They weren't in towns, were they? Were they isolated in the countryside? Were they like stately homes? How did it operate?
Well, the villas are the elite residences of the wealthy, and the wealthy are magistrates in towns. So they're almost like the country seat of the urban magistrates. Interesting thing about this one is that it's actually quite away from St Albans, Verulamium, Cirencester and Silchester, which are the main towns in the area. And that's what makes this area such an oddity.
This site does pose more questions than it answers, doesn't it?
It does, very much so.
In search of answers, Neil's sending Stewart on a mission to survey the site from the air. He'll be seeking clues in the landscape as to how the site may have changed over the past 2,000 years. He may be able to spot ancient droveways, potential indicators of intensive farming activity. And he'll also be taking a careful look at the River Thames. It too may offer further hints about this choice of building location. Back on dry land, the data from Stewart's flight has been processed. We're building a 3D model of the area to help us get a real handle on what it would have looked like in Roman times. If you were a traveller coming upriver, what would you have seen? What would the landscape have been like?
Well, if you came from the landward side, you would come along this ridge, and then what happens, you seem to connect into a series of roads, one down here, and that's one of the things I saw from the helicopter. You could see the crop marks of these roads coming in here, coming down these fields, which seem to connect into its wider landscape. And you can see this is a scar caused by the River Thames. It's changed course over time. I mean, my suspicion is that in Roman times the channel came much closer to the villa, so that the villa would just literally sit on the edge of the channel somewhere in this area here.
So it wouldn't have been stuck out miles away from anywhere in the middle of the country. It would have been part of an organised landscape.
Oh, very much so. And I think the river is very important to the economy of the villa because of the market that potentially will be at Abingdon, connecting to that wider hub. Economically, it's in a great position. Actually, visually, I think it's in a splendid position with that view connecting you with the centre at Abingdon.
Really. But if you took the view southwards, in Roman times, you would not have seen the cooling towers of Didcot there.
It's a great theory that might explain why a villa was built here in the first place, but it also needs proving. So Stewart's roped in Naomi, our environmental specialist, to help take samples from deep in the water meadows across the road.
Have you ever wandered around there and see what it looks like?
See what we can do, yeah.
If the river was once here, the soil will be different a couple of metres down. One thing that invariably takes time in archaeology is making sure you don't destroy the things you find. Phil's team have been carefully scraping back the earth above what we hope will turn out to be a Roman mosaic. Well, after all the promises that we'd get something exciting here, Really, we haven't heard anything from the people in this trench all morning, except now. Phil, you want me?
I think we got something interesting to show you, Tony.
About time. What is it?
I know it says mosaic, but actually the original excavation records make it clear that there were only small fragments, isolated tesserae, that indicate there was a mosaic there. The real bit of mosaic was that bit there, in the corner of this room.
And that is where?
Pretty much directly underneath my toolbox.
Well, I'd love to see what's underneath your toolbox. Well, I think this is the perfect time to stop for a moment, don't you? See you after the break. There's just a day and a half left to find the Roman villa at Dropshort and its grand mosaic, of which, as yet, we haven't found even a fragment. The sun's beating down, and Phil's now talking to himself.
Oh, come on, Phil. Put the muck in the barrel. God, one day's time I could have flung it twice as far as that.
Phil and his team are still hard at it in their trench, inching towards what they hope will be the big prize, a large Roman mosaic, which could be under his toolbox if we're lucky.
Starting to feel differently. So
And across the road in the water meadows, Stewart and Naomi are on a mission. They're looking for the River Thames, or at least where it used to be. They think the Thames has significantly changed course since Roman Britain, a full mile closer to Dropshort than it is now, so they're taking core samples to prove their theory.
What are your first impressions of what you're seeing in that?
Well, it's all looking very good in terms of typical sort of river deposits. It's very, it's clay, but it's very silty as well.
Is this the sort of sediments you get from water that's moving?
Yes.
Or what, it is it?
Yeah,
rather
definitely.
Static. Right.
Yeah, so at least we are finding what we're really looking for. So we have got evidence of water movement. Okay.
Okay.
Naomi's pretty certain they're right, it just needs double checking in the labs, that these cores are showing deposits typical of moving water. Meanwhile, back in the trenches, there's some good news. Neil's 2 new trenches are really delivering the goods. Danny's in the outer perimeter ditch, getting her hands dirty.
Oh, it's cool. You can see all little holes in it. You see? Where's Mark? We need Mark.
Just to be sure of what she's found, Danny calls on Mark Corney, a specialist Roman finds expert who's joined the team.
It's got holes in it, so I wonder if it's like a sieve or a colander or something like that.
It's from a cheese press.
A cheese press?
Yeah, waiting and pressing cheese, and they're made locally between the 2nd and the 4th century AD. And although it's only a small piece, I mean, it tells us a story, doesn't it? They're making cheese here, so that implies they've got either cattle or sheep, goats, or all 3 that you can make cheese from. That's really nice.
Fantastic.
It's a puzzling piece of evidence that suggests our villa perhaps wasn't the grand country residence of an urban bigwig that we assumed. What would he be doing with a cheese press? It looks like the Dropshort residents may have been living off the land. And there's more to come from Matt's trench on the inner perimeter.
Ooh, there you go. Oh no, it's a bit of roof. It's a bit of roof tile, isn't it? I think, is it?
He's having what can only be described as a very good afternoon for an archaeologist.
There you go. Yeah, it's getting very. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
ooh. So, ooh.
Well, take your time, Matt.
Yeah.
You know, the key is to get it out in one bit. No pressure. I mean, it's not often, is it? You know, as an archaeologist, that you actually find a deposit like this, where it's absolutely chock full of stuff. Take your time. Ooh.
Oh. There you go. Hey. There it is.
Oh, Matt, look at that.
It's huge.
That's the second part of a rustic, locally made pot from the 3rd or 4th century that's come out of this trench today. It would probably have been in the kitchen, storing grain, oats or dried fruit. Dropshort seems to have a whole host of rustic features, so we're being pulled in two directions. Is it a swanky villa or is it a farm? Over in the water meadows, the core samples have been analysed and have yielded some intriguing information for Neil.
We have a result.
Right.
We have a result. We think we found the river channel all the way up to here.
We put 3 holes in, and basically, in a nutshell, it's quite waterlogged, much drier deposits, similar deposits to what we're finding over at the villa site, sort of dry land, if you like.
So where we're standing now, will we had our feet wet in Roman times?
You'd be paddling, you'd be right on the edge here.
So could I have brought my boat into here?
I'm thinking so, yeah. It's definitely a navigable body of water.
And in a way, this river is potentially the focus of the whole site.
And could you have been using this in the villa economy? Could they have been, I don't know, sort of pasturing cows?
Oh yeah, I mean the location here with the, we know we've got evidence of droveways, and the really interesting thing about the big droveway that comes past the enclosure, it continues and comes up to what will be the edge of the water, bringing animals to water, and you've got grazing out there. It's part of the whole economy of the villa.
So do you think then it's this location of higher spur of land, is this why the villa's where it is?
It is, yeah. Right on the edge of the river. It's not going to flood up there either, which is quite important. If I was coming here now and saying, where would you put your villa?
Yeah.
It'd be there. Right there. Yeah.
I can find it.
The evidence is now stacking up that Dropshort might have been a farm. Yet confusingly, there's all this posh Roman stuff here as well. The glass, the painted walls and the elusive mosaic. There's a real puzzle developing. Got a trowel I could borrow, mate?
Yeah, I reckon we have.
Thanks very much. It's not often I get my knees dirty, but I'm so desperate to see some sign of the wretched mosaic that I can't help myself.
But I checked the record of the plan, the detailed plans.
It didn't say anything, did it?
This is where it's definitely supposed to be.
Not even seeing the odd tessera, are we?
Not at all, no.
We're only getting floor foundation rather than whatever was on the floor.
It does imply that the floor is gone. We've got very clear, right the way across the site, look, plough scars going right the way through into the ground. Now, if that's happened since the 60s, and it could well have done, then the floor, what little there was of it, is gone.
So after all that hope and effort, no grand mosaic for us to admire and wonder at. Phil said at the beginning that mosaic chasing was a dangerous game, and it seems as if a mosaic that survived 1400 years may have been destroyed by ploughing in the last 50 years. At the end of day 2, it's left Neil with a problem. I can't deny that I'm feeling a bit disappointed. We're coming to the end of day 2. We didn't get the mosaic. Not your fault. You located where it was, but it wasn't there. But more than that, I don't know, the whole thing seems to me to be a bit of a mess. We know so little.
I understand you're frustrated, Tony, but you know we have to do this right by the archaeology. Phil's doing a top job in there. It's going to be a race for tomorrow, for sure. We may have to open one other trench, I think, but you know, if you really say to me, am I absolutely sure we're going to know by tomorrow night the plan of this building? At the moment, no, I'm not.
Just one day left and we've no idea what our Roman building looks like. Still, we've been in a tight spot before. It's a big ask, but it's down to you, Neil.
We're looking to demonstrate.
It's the beginning of day 3 here in Oxfordshire, and we've found a Roman house. We know it had a floor because, look, there's the bedding layer for the floor. We know it had a roof. We found lots of roof tiles like this one. And we know that down there was the River Thames, which elegantly flowed past the villa's front door. Now, we don't know that actually. It could have been the back door or even the side door, because what we don't know is which way round the villa faced or what it looked like from the outside. With so little time left, site director Neil has got the digger working at the crack of dawn, and the 5th trench goes in. Time Team's Geophys squad have tried everything, but have come up with only scanty evidence of the villa's layout. So Neil's having to draw on all his archaeological experience to crack this one.
If we try and think about Roman villas, we've got Phil's trench here. So let's just suppose we've got one big range there. Now, John's getting anomalies over here. So let's just suppose we've got a second range over here. So just one possibility is that this is the early villa here. They then knock this down and rebuild at a later date back here. And perhaps this is the source of all the pottery that's coming out of the ditches. If we get stone walls here, or even timber evidence of timber buildings, then we're in business. If we don't get much here, we're back to the drawing board.
We're very much back to the drawing board.
Neil thinks that maybe there were 2 phases of construction at Dropshort. One early villa built in the 1st to 2nd century, which got knocked down or even burnt down to make room for a second later villa where Phil's excavating. This could explain the 2 ranges or lines of buildings that seem to show up on the Geophys. Neil's plumbed for a trench across this faint Geophys anomaly. Just seen something rather bizarre over here. Emma appears to be surveying on top of the spoil heap, like Sir Edmund Hillary on top of Everest. What are you doing, mate?
I'm just setting out a new trench, and it's right on top of the spoil heap here.
A new trench?
Yeah, new trench.
Well, that's one I haven't heard about. Hello, Neil, can you hear me? It's halfway through our final day, and there's no stopping Neil. He's going for trench number 6, hoping it'll unlock the Dropshort secret.
To plan C or D.
OK, thanks, mate.
I mean, it seems to me one problem we have is that the geophysics really hasn't worked on this site.
What do you mean?
Well, we haven't got a very clear picture of this villa. I'm used to really nice, clear geophysics plots.
That's not our fault. We can only map what's below the ground. If the archaeology isn't there, if it's not surviving, then we can't map it.
The upshot is that we don't have a very clear picture of what the remains, whatever remains of this villa, what it might look like. OK, so what Alex and I have
The tension's spreading through the whole team. Despite Neil punching holes all along the line where he thinks the early villa might be, the signs aren't looking promising. But it's not game over just yet. Time Team archaeologist Rakshar has been unusually quiet over in the outer perimeter trench, diligently carrying out Neil's instruction to get dating material from the ditch. Still, I've got every faith she's going to deliver.
What have you got there, Rob?
Pile of some sort.
It's like some...
It's enormous, whatever it is.
Oh, gosh. It's massive.
Let's try and lift him. Here we are.
Oh, wow, that is pretty...
Hang on a sec.
No way! Wow, is that like one of those ropes? It's like another hypercourse tile, isn't it?
Yes.
I love that, the moment of turning it over and just going...
I could just feel the pattern on the underside with my fingers and thought, hang on a sec.
That is brilliant.
These patterned hypercourse tiles are part of a sophisticated central heating system and are the best evidence yet that there was a 1st to 2nd century building here, somewhere.
It's really good.
Yeah. Very, very complicated.
Raksha?
Yes?
For virtually all of the last 36 hours, I've been on the other side of that fence. I haven't got a clue what's going on in your trench.
Welcome to the outer edges, Tony.
Mark, do the finds help us to date the ditches?
Absolutely. We've really hit the jackpot in this trench in terms of good datable pottery. The earliest piece we've got is this lovely piece of Samian ware, which probably dates to about 70 to 80 AD.
That's gorgeous. It's got an animal on it.
It's a little lion. But can you see, it's also got a lead rivet. It's been broken and repaired. So it was obviously highly treasured by whoever owned it. And these sherds are big and fresh. They've not been kicking around on the surface. This material has been brought in and deliberately dumped to fill in these ditches.
What do you think all this means?
Well, I honestly believe that we haven't found the building yet that all of this material has come from.
So you don't think that it comes from our villa over there?
No, look at it, it's so fresh and it's high status and it's great quality. I don't think we've actually found the villa that this comes from yet.
Rakshaw's last-minute theory is that the early villa building isn't where Neil's been looking for 3 days, but somewhere closer to her ditch. She could be right, but have we got time to put her idea to the test? Some of the archaeologists were saying to me over lunchtime, we haven't found the proper villa. What we've found is just some annex or something, and there is another fab villa somewhere around that we just haven't located.
I mean,
we don't know, do we?
I keep using this word long shot. This is a long shot because look at this geophysical anomaly, Tony. You know, it doesn't shout first century villa, does it to you? It doesn't to me, I can assure you of that. But
the reality is, we came here 2.5 days ago. We were pretty sure there was a villa here. All right, we've found the 60s dig, but we've found precious little apart from that to tell the story. And we've got, what, 3 hours left?
Yeah, and that's true. So we have to try. We have to try this. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, well, we've gone down fighting.
My money's on going down fighting. In a last-minute lunge for the finishing post, in goes Rakshaw's new trench, looking for the source of all the pottery she's been finding.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry. That's how I'm feeling at this moment.
Very clean. Oh, pottery. Hang on. Oh, careful. Pottery and bone.
No, it's just bone. There's got to be a building here somewhere. There has to be. There just has to be.
The problem really is, isn't it, that there isn't one bit of building debris out of this trench so far. Stone rubble, smashed up tile, wall plaster, and I don't see any of that at the moment. It just looks like a rubbish pit.
Well, do you know what? You have to test it, and sometimes it doesn't work out.
You know, you try your best. You know, there's been no lack of thought on this site over the last 3 days. I don't think we've ever thought so hard for 3 days about actually where to dig, what we're digging. You know, and in the glorious light of retrospect, I don't think I've done anything differently. I don't think we made any obvious mistakes. I think we've done all the right things. It just hasn't gone our way. And that means, you know, the essential conundrum of where this material, which is so fresh in your ditch, is coming from.
I just don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
How far do we have to go?
I think we'll call it a day.
Yeah?
I think we'll call it a day.
Neil's failed to find a shred of evidence for a stone-built villa close to Rakshaw's trench. There could still be a second, earlier villa out there, but we just can't see it in the geophys. Although it's not as if we're going away empty-handed. Thank goodness for Phil and his trench of riches.
What we have here are basically 3 rooms. We've got that very small one there with the pink flooring, which is where we had the mosaic, or where we didn't have the mosaic. Then we've got another little room here in the corner, And then the main spread of the villa is this apparently large room going all the way up beyond the extent of our trench.
I mean, you know, it's been a funny today's Phil. We've chased around looking for a big stone building, haven't found it. But in a sense, you know, this is the heart of the villa complex, isn't it? All along, you've been beavering away in here. And actually, yeah, these are quite small rooms, aren't they? But this is as good as it got on this site, I think. This is people trying to do Roman-style living, perhaps on a fairly small budget. Nice mosaic here, nice mosaic here, and they could think you could come in here and you could just live you could live it up in the Roman style.
I think it's been a very, very good conclusion.
In 3 days, we've written a new chapter in the history of this site. Unlike the archaeologist who dug drop short in the 60s, we've worked out why the villa was built here and finally have a grasp of its layout. It gives a perfect insight into how a farming family got caught up in the fashions and lifestyle of their European masters. We came here looking for a magnificent palace and not a manky old farmhouse. But in fact, we didn't find either. What we did discover was a lovely little villa by the banks of the Thames, which gave us a real flavour of early Roman life. Over the last 3 days, we've excavated a huge amount of stuff, and yet there must be something else out there. Although, for the moment, drop short remains an enigma. And perhaps it always will.